Hey Andrea, so I'm going to make you a quick tutorial about deleting stuff away that you don't want from your scan data. So the first thing I'm going to do is import the scan data, so I'm just going to use this import button on the right hand side and find your file. So it's a really big file, so it's going to take a second to open, and then once it has, so I just need to plug my tablet in. Okay. So first things first, I like to orientate the scan data so that it's like facing straight on. So I press X to switch off the symmetry, and then I go to this move scale or rotate. Go to a side view and switch off perspective. When you're navigating around, if you press Shift, it will lock it to like a straight on view. So I then just want to get this so it's kind of facing me nicely, and that's pretty good. Okay, so you can see here that your active point count is over 5 million, and that is incredibly high. That's the reason why I was kind of asking if there were settings that you could change in the scanning app, because with a mesh this dense, if we zoom in with polyframe switched on, your mesh is constructed of these triangles, and 5 million triangles is a lot. And it's going to make the data quite hard to work with. The quickest way to get rid of the noise would be to use something called polygroups. And polygroups, you can automatically apply them, and what it would do is it would take each individual element and allocate it a different group, a different color group, and then you could very easily, for example, isolate the main part of your scan and get rid of all the noise data. Usually you can do that automatically by pressing auto groups, but because our mesh is so dense, if I press auto groups, it actually just crashes the software. So unfortunately we can't use that method for deleting away the noise for this particular scan, but I would really hope in the future if we could adjust a few settings and create a file that's not quite so big, you could use this auto group feature and it would make this whole process a lot faster. So another way of deleting stuff away is to use the select tool. So the first thing that I want to do is switch my display properties to double, and that will then allow me to see like the front and rear side of my data. So rather than it being kind of semi see-through when I view it like that, it's showing me both sides. And I can see what you mean about the noise, like you have got a lot of noise data stuff here. So the best way to get rid of that is if you hold down Control Shift, you'll see that this icon over here changes. With Control and Shift still held down, click on that and then change it to Select Lasso. And then again, if you hold down Control Shift, you can begin to select stuff. If it's green, it means it's going to just make that visible, but if you also hold down Alt or Option to turn it red, so Control Shift and Option / Alt, you can actually then begin to delete stuff away. So Control Shift Alt, I can begin to like lasso stuff I don't want away. Now it's not actually deleting it, it's just making it invisible. So if I want to actually delete it, I have to go up to Geometry, Modify Topology, and Delete Hidden. And when we press Delete Hidden, you'll notice that this number will drop down slightly. Well, it barely dropped down, but it did drop down a little bit. And so basically what you're going to have to do is use the Control Shift and Alt and just manually delete the stuff that you don't want away. As you can imagine, this is going to take quite a while. But it should gradually begin to bring down your file size. And you could do some quite big deleting. So for example, if I did Control Shift and I got rid of, like, if I knew I only wanted the head, for example, you know, you might do quite a big selection like this. And delete hidden, and that will really start to bring down this active point count. So again, Control Shift, and then right at the end pressing Alt to make it erase. And yeah, so you can start to clean it up that way. So obviously you could do this a little bit more carefully, like figuring out what you want to keep and what you want to get rid of. All of this in here is going to be relatively tricky to get rid of. The other way you could do it, I suppose, would be to use split masking. So in the subtool menu, you have this like split thing, and either you can split hidden things away, or you can split masked things away. So yeah, you could probably use, it's going to be quite tricky though. You could, let's see if it works. So I'm going to use masking pen, and I'm going to tell my masking pen to be masked from the back side. So at the moment, if I use the masking, so I'm going to hold down Control and make sure I've got mask pen selected. If I just mask like this, you'll see that it also masks like all the way through to the object that I want to keep. However, if I hold down Control and then go to Brush, Auto Masking, Backface Mask, it hopefully will only mask, yeah, it will only mask the things that I touch from the one side. So you might be able to kind of select stuff that way, and then basically you can just go split masked. Cool. So firstly, make sure you haven't got anything hidden. So delete anything that's hidden, and then split masked. And basically anything that you masked with the mask pen tool, it's now split into a separate subtool. Yeah. And then what you can do is go into that separate subtool. So this subtool literally just contains the stuff that I just masked, and then you can delete that away as well. So that could be another way of masking stuff. Splitting stuff, is to use the mask tool. And you could just go in. Just be careful that you don't accidentally select stuff that you want to keep. So I would suggest like mask, and then just check that this, like you can see here, this is actually also masked. So if you didn't do Control and Option/Alt, take that off. Hopefully the stuff on the inside is still masked, and then you could do split masked. Yeah, and again, that stuff you can delete away. So yeah, it's just going to be a case of using probably a combination of masking and splitting, and then the Control Shift and Select tool. And then, yeah, once you're kind of happy with what you're left with, you can start to do your manipulations. So that might be, for example, using the deformation menu, where you could begin to like skew stuff. You might want to play around a bit with rendering, so like picking different materials and doing renders. Let's see what's going on here. Yeah, if you press this BPR button, it will actually give you like a bit of a cleaner render. Obviously, the larger your active point count, the longer that render will take. But let's see how this looks. I've just selected the standard white material and press that BPR button, and it might give us quite a nice little quick render. Yeah, that kind of looks cool. So then you can just go to Document, Export, and then you can export Photoshop, JPEG or PNGs, so if you want to export 2D renders. But yeah, the lower you can get this active point count, the better. So yeah, I guess just delete away as much of the stuff that you don't want as possible.